If you're over 50 and quietly wondering, is this really it? Let me say, this is not an indication that anything is wrong. That feeling isn't dissatisfaction, it's evolution, it's who you're becoming. There comes a point in life, and for many women, it's after 50, when the old ways of living no longer fits who you're becoming. And that's what I want to talk about today. Why being over 50 doesn't just allow reinvention, it calls for it. Sometimes we've just got to pivot and change. And most importantly, how you can reinvent yourself in a grounded, confident, meaningful way. And that's why I think reinventing yourself matters after 50. The old roles no longer fit. By the time we reach 50 and beyond, many of the roles we once lived inside have changed. Children are grown up, careers shift or end, relationships evolve, the expectations placed on us begin to loosen. Well, we hope they do. What once defined you may no longer reflect who you are now. Reinvention is not rejection, it's simply a realignment. It's about recognizing the woman you are today, that she deserves a life that fits who she is now and not who she had to be when she was 20 or 30 years ago. And you know what? You actually earn the right to choose for yourself. In earlier decades, many women made choices based on responsibility, survival, keeping the peace, and doing the right thing. Somehow, when we get older, something changes. There's a quieter, stronger voice that says, I don't want to keep living on autopilot. Feels a bit dreary, doesn't it? Reinvention is not selfish, it's self honoring, honoring yourself in every way. It's choosing intentionally, not from fear, but from your deep, innate wisdom that lived experience has taught you. Staying the same becomes more costly than change. Think about that. It's a big one. Staying the same becomes more costly than change. At this stage of life, staying in situations that drain you, silence you, or shrink you becomes at a real emotional cost. And what I've seen, what I've experienced, that cost shows up as the big R: resentment, exhaustion, loss of confidence, and that quiet regret. It's almost a resignation, really. So think about it more. Reinvention isn't reckless, but I'll tell you what stagnation is. Reinvention isn't about becoming louder or proving anything. It's about becoming bolder without abandoning your wisdom. When we're younger, boldness can look like taking risks, pushing, striving. But boldness in our older years is very different. It's steady, it's discerning, it knows when to move and when to pause. This is what rising looks like. Confidence informed by experience, courage guided by your wisdom. Wow. Think about that. Confidence informed by your experience. Like there's that lived experience again. And you've developed wisdom. And that's where the courage comes in. There's positive ways, to reinvent yourself, particularly after the age of 50. Let's talk about it. How? Because reinvention doesn't have to be dramatic or overwhelming. It can be grounded, very intentional, and deeply empowering for you. It's time to redefine who you are without apologizing. Reinvention begins with identity. Who are you? Who you stand for? Many of us women, we're still carrying outdated labels. You know, the ones like, I'm not confident, I'm just practical. I've always been the supporter, not the leader. So then the question becomes, who am I now? If I stop explaining myself to everyone else, who are you? You're not becoming someone new. You're shedding what no longer fits. Just letting it all go, let it just drop away if you like. And it's time to upgrade your mindset before you change your life. Some people do that in reverse, actually. They do things like they rush out and get a new job, new business, new direction, all of that. But the very first step is always to do a check on your mindset. And you need to go from within to do that. And what I have found is that you have to release some of that self-doubt and you have to begin trusting yourself again. And a big one here is learn to respond and not react. Just build that emotional steadiness that actually you've spent years cultivating. And that is, be calm, be confident, and change how you speak, decide and lead. A calm, confident mind changes how you speak, decide, and lead. This is where true confidence lives. And I think the thing that's important is you have to choose alignment over approval. I love when everything lines up. You get in your flow and you just start doing the thing. And I think this can be a fabulous freedom, if you like, where you no longer need to be liked by everyone. When you're reinventing yourself, it requires some courage, the courage to disappoint others mostly, whereas we sometimes have been disappointing ourselves. And that means what you have to start is saying no without that guilt that drags you down, and learn to trust your inner compass, that intuition, that gut feeling you have. If it's not right, it's generally not right. And let go of expectations that do not align with who you are now, the new you, the emerging you, if you like. When you choose alignment, that feeling where confidence flows and follows very naturally from that. It's also a good time to create something that reflects your wisdom. And you don't have to always start from scratch when you reinvent yourself. It just means expressing your wisdom differently. And it might look a bit like this: stepping into leadership, mentoring, coaching, starting or reshaping a business, speaking, writing, or teaching. Your lived experience then is not like a side note, it's a foundation of who you are. And this chapter of our lives is about contributing with meaning and not hustling. Because I think when you contribute in our older years, it's got a lot deeper meaning when you express yourself. The other thing, when you're preparing for the next chapter, or maybe you're already in there, you have to build emotional resilience. And you've got a lifetime to back you up. So there's no problem with that. And, it's not about avoiding challenges. It's just about meeting them differently. And that's why emotional resilience allows you to stay grounded under pressure, recover more quickly, trust yourself through uncertainty, move forward without fear. Just keep moving forward. Resilience is not toughness, it's steadiness. So let's think about this. Reinventing yourself after 50 isn't about becoming someone else. It's becoming more you You get clearer, you get braver and more grounded than ever in your whole life. This chapter of your life doesn't ask you to fade. It's asking you right now, here and now, to rise differently. So if you're feeling that pull to reinvent yourself, but don't quite know where to start, know this. You don't have to figure it out on your own. You don't have to be alone. You are not here to start over all on your own. You're here to rise boldly, wisely, and entirely yourself. So be yourself. You know, if this resonates, if you found this helpful, and you're ready to explore what reinvention looks like for you or could look like for you'll find ways to connect with me below.